The Lord of Light, the Heart of Fire, the God of Flame and Shadow. These are just a few of the names given to R'hllor, a prominent god in Essos, also a religion that encourages the burning of innocent little children. This has gone off to a pretty good start. Okay, anyways, what's up, everyone? This is Jess from Games of Power, and welcome to the Game of Thrones History and Lore show, where I cover some of the most interesting, in my opinion, stories of history and lore that we find in Planeteros. And today we'll be going over the religion of R'hllor, aka the Lord of Light, aka the Heart of Fire, aka the God of Flame and Shadow, aka the Red God, aka anyways, you get it. With that said, let's get right into it. The religion of R'hllor is vastly different compared to the religion of the many-faced god or even the old gods, mainly because it is dualistic, where its followers believe in two supreme yet opposing powers or gods. R'hllor is the god of light, heat, and life, while its antithesis, the Great Other, is the god of ice and death. These two opposing powers are told to be in an eternal struggle over the fate of the world, and we see this through the prophecies of A Song of Ice and Fire. Take, for example, the Azor Ahai prophecy told by Books of Ashai. Azor Ahai is a messianic hero or heroine wielding Lightbringer, a flaming sword, aka the Sword of Heroes that can raise dragons from stone. R'hllor isn't the only one with a ton of names though. The Great Other, whose name shall not be spoken, but will be in this moment for educational purposes, is also known as the Lord of Darkness, the Soul of Ice, and the God of Night and Terror. Kinda sounds like someone else we know, but he wasn't killed too early in the show rendition. Not to make you think that I didn't like how Arya killed him, I loved it, but I have gripes on other things that I may discuss in another video. Anyway, moving on. R'hllor, as you can see, is worshipped mainly in Essos. Essos is where we find many red temples in a lot of the major cities. Ashai, Lys, Braavos, Myr, Pentos, Tyrosh, Koror, and Volantis. And according to the Archmaester Gramian, the temple in Volantis is by far the largest in the world, coming in at about 3 times the size of the Great Sept in King's Landing. Now, there are some temples that hold the same or similar customs as other red temples, but it's not entirely clear what practices are actually shared throughout the entire religious base. But regardless, here's what we do know so far. The temples in Volantis and Myr have been known to bring children into their ranks to be trained either as priests, temple prostitutes, or warriors. Those who serve are considered slaves, and all must play their part, no matter their role, big or small. The high priest, or the priest that presides in the Volantis temple, goes by many names, including the Flame of Truth, the Light of Wisdom, the First Servant of the Lord of Light, and the Slave of R'hllor. The red temples aren't exclusionary like the Faith of the Seven. Men and women alike are trained as red priests or red priestesses. For the red temple in Volantis, the priests and priestesses are given flamed tattoos across their cheeks, chin, and forehead, since they are slaves to the red god. This, however, is a custom for that particular temple. No other red temples require this of their priests and priestess. During their time at the red temples, the red priests and priestesses are taught prayers and spells, along with being trained to see things in the flames. Kind of like divination in the world of Harry Potter, priests and priestesses are trained to see figures and shapes in night fires, along with deciphering those images, similar to interpreting the tea leaves. A little known part of the religion of R'hllor are the Fiery Hand, a religious warrior group that protects the red temples. Also considered slaves to the red god, they wield spears with points shaped in flames and wear ornate armor over orange robes. Similar to the priests and the priestesses, they have flame tattoos across their cheeks. It is very common for worshippers to pray over fire because fire is central to their religion and is associated with life. They commonly pray for the red god to bring the dawn and banish darkness over a night fire, while they also thank their god for ending the day. Continuing the theme that fire is central to their religion, priests and priestesses will light fires to welcome the sun at first light, while also setting night fires at sunset. The night is dark and full of terrors, is is a common prayer for practitioners, and the response to this is, "Lead us from the darkness, O Lord, fill our hearts with fire, so we may walk your shining path. O Lord, you are the light in our eyes, the fire in our hearts, the heat in our loins. Yours is the sun that warms our days, yours the stars that guard us in the dark of the night. Lord of light, defend us. The night is dark and full of terrors. Lord of light, protect us. We're Lord who gave us breath, we thank you. We're Lord who gave us the day, we thank you. We thank you for the sun that warms us. We thank you for the stars that watch us. We thank you for our hearts and for our torches that keeps the savage dark away." Red priests and priestesses have been known to recite ceremonial prayers for wedding ceremonies. Similar to the jumping of the broom, the bride and groom are asked to jump over a ditch fire, signifying they are now one. Also similar to our weddings, the couple will host a wedding feast after the ceremony. Similar to Catholic priests, red priests and priestesses administer what is called the last kiss, otherwise known as death rites. Once a person dies, the priest and priestesses will fill his or her mouth with fire, blowing out the flame into the corpse's mouth and throat. It is believed by followers of the red god that they will ascend to the hall of light to sit beside the Lord when they pass. Visions are a very prominent part of what red priests and priestesses do. We see it all throughout the show and books, with Melisandre, a red priestess from Ashai, advising Stannis Baratheon based on the images she sees in the fire. Something Varys talks about in the books and in the show is a story of how he became a eunuch. When a sorcerer threw his genitals into the flames, he very distinctly heard a voice after the sorcerer recited an incantation. Though he was a sorcerer and not a red priest, this experience reiterates the importance of fire in its use in magic, something red priests and priestesses are known to use and possess. Specifically for the red priests and priestesses, seeing images in night fires and understanding them takes years of dedicated training. Just like light dreams, these visions can contain images from the past, present, or future. With as much training as they attain from the red temples, seeing in the flames is still very difficult, and at times the priest or priestess get it wrong. Take, for example, Melisandre's admission of this to Jon in the show. She tells him that she thought she saw Stannis in her vision, but she realized instead that it was Jon, and that he was in fact Azor Ahai. Here's a fun fact: even though this religion is dualistic and only believes R'hllor and the Great Other, it is similar to the many-faced god, where followers acknowledge that other gods are the same god, the many-faced god. We see a similar sentiment echoed in the book, where the character named Moqorro tells Victarion Greyjoy, brother to Balon Greyjoy, says, "Your drowned god is a demon. He is no more than a thrall of the other, the dark god whose name must not be spoken." Now, switching gears, let's talk about notable priests and priestesses we're introduced to in the books and the show adaptation. In the show, we are introduced to Melisandre, the red priestess of Ashai. We're also introduced to King Var, the high priestess of the Temple of Atlantis, and we're introduced to Thoros of Myr, the red priestess that resurrects Beric Dondarrion on numerous occasions in the book and the show. In the book specifically, Benerro is introduced to us as the high priest of the Temple of Atlantis, as Alino, a red priest who performs a wedding in a feast for crows, and Moqorro, a red priest who is sent by Benerro to offer guidance and help Daenerys Targaryen, because Benerro believes she is Azor Ahai. Anyways, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and tell me what you think. Did I cover everything here that you wanted to cover? What other topics from the history and lore of A Song of Ice and Fire would you like me to cover here? Let me know below. As always, thank you so much, and have a great night.